Hello and welcome to reading Star Wars quotes to avoid depression. It's been a minute. I got bunny slippers so I could live out my Val Kilmer real genius dream.
The only thing I can't figure out is how to keep the change in my pockets. I've got it. Nudity.
Self-care. Stay hydrated. Without further ado, let's read some quotes. I stole them off of just random websites. I have 20 facts here. Copy and pasted them. I hope they're grammatically correct. Let's go. Luke Skywalker is the hero with 1,000 faces. Though equally inspired by fairy tales, westerns, and 1930s sci-fi serials, George Lucas based the framework of the story for the original Star Wars, I think they mean A New Hope, they just put Star Wars there, around the theories of Joseph Campbell's book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. The book tracked common mythological motifs and argued that myths from around the world that have been passed down through generations, like Beowulf or King Arthur, share a basic structure. According to Campbell, a hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man. Lucas simply grafted these ideas onto a story with Luke as the main hero. I did this for a senior English class. It's called The Hero's Journey. Ever heard of it? Also relied on Akira Kurosawa for the story's point of view. Lucas struggled with just how to tell this massive sci-fi space opera on a personal and relatable scale, and he found the answer in director Akira Kurosawa's 1958 film, The Hidden Fortress. It's on HBO Max, it's really good, I highly recommend it. You can only read it. There's no English dub, you gotta read it if you don't speak Japanese, but I highly recommend it anyway. Telling the story of a roguish general protecting a beautiful princess from an evil clan behind enemy lines. The one thing I was really intrigued by was the fact that the story was told from the two lowest characters, Lucas explained in an interview for the Criterion Collection's release of the Kurosawa classic. I decided that would be a nice way to tell the Star Wars story. Take the two lowliest characters, as Kurosawa did, and tell the story from their point of view, which in the Star Wars case is the two droids, and that was the strongest influence. The fact that there was a princess trying to get through enemy lines is more of a coincidence than anything else. Perhaps not coincidentally, the word Jedi is allegedly derived from the Japanese word jidaigeki, that meaning period dramas, or the types of films Japanese directors like Kurosawa would typically make, the kind of movies that clearly influenced Lucas. Harrison Ford was cast as Han Solo on accident. Lucas shared the 7-month-long casting sessions for Star Wars, I think they mean New Hope, with his friends and fellow director Brian De Palma, who was casting for Carrie at the same time, the movie. Lucas was looking for unknown faces that he had never worked with before, and initially brought in Harrison Ford, who had appeared as the antagonist, street racer Bob Falfa in Lucas's American Graffiti.
Hey man, I'm sorry if I scared you.
To feed lines to the auditioning actors. Lucas saw dozens of actors, including a young Kurt Russell? Have you seen a young Kurt Russell? For the part of Han, but liked Ford's delivery feeding lines to the other actors so much that he caved and cast him in the part. The name Darth Vader wasn't anything special to Lucas. That's just another one of those things that came out of thin air. It sort of appeared in my head one day, Lucas said in J.W. Rinsler's The Making of Star Wars. He later told Rolling Stone, Darth is a variation of Dark, and Vader is a variation of Father. So it's basically Dark Father. Cool story building, dude. James Earl Jones put in less than a day's work. Lucas chose Jones as the voice of Darth Vader because of the actor's unmistakable baritone. He was given only $7,500 for his services. Let me say that again. $7,500. And completed all of his lines in 2.5 hours. Vader is a man who never learned the beauties and subtleties of human expression, Jones said. So I figured out the key to my work was to keep it on a very narrow band of expression. That was the secret. Luke and Leia's swing across the Death Star chasm was for real. Kind of. The relatively small production of Star Wars at England's Elstree Studios meant that corners had to be cut wherever possible, even for the main actors. When it came time for Luke and Leia to perform the iconic swing over the Death Star chasm, Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher had to do it themselves, because the production couldn't afford stunt doubles. The actors, who were secured with safety harnesses, swung across the platform 30 feet above the studio floor in one take, which is what you see in the final movie. Though the drop was lengthened to seem bottomless in post-production using a matte painting. Theaters didn't want to show the movies. Less than 40 theaters agreed to book showings of Star Wars, I think they mean New Hope, after its release date was moved up to before Memorial Day. The studio thought it would bomb in a crowded summer movie slate. Around the same time, 20th Century Fox was going to release an eagerly anticipated adaptation of a best-selling book called The Other Side of Midnight, which theaters were eager to show. Fox then stipulated that any theater showing The Other Side of Midnight must also show Star Wars, which inflated the number of screens for the movie. Needless to say, Star Wars eventually became the highest-grossing movie ever made up to that time, while The Other Side of Midnight didn't even break $25 million mark. And as requiring movie theaters to show one movie in exchange for another movie was actually illegal, 20th Century Fox ended up being fined $25,000 for forcing theaters to show The Other Side of Midnight. That's pretty funny. Hoth is Norway. Instead of the desert planet of Tatooine, which was shot on location in Tunisia in the first movie, The Empire Strikes Back kicks off on the ice planet of Hoth, which was shot partially on location at the Hardangerjokeren Glacier in Norway. During production on The Empire Strikes Back, the worst storm in 50 years hit the region, leading to long delays in shooting. The minus 20-degree weather was so bad that at times the crew wasn't able to even leave their hotel for fear of whiteouts or worse. So instead of delaying the shoot even further, Kirshner and crew set up insert shots from the entrance of their hotel. Luke fleeing the Wampa Cave in the final film is one of these shots. Stanley Kubrick caused more delays in shooting. Sets were built for The Empire Strikes Back at Elstree Studios, where Kubrick was shooting The Shining at the same time. A massive fire broke out there in February 1979, burning down an entire soundstage. So Kubrick took over some of Empire's studio space, and Kubrick, an infamous perfectionist, waited and waited, causing even more delays to Empire's shooting schedule. Samuel L. Jackson had his lightsaber engraved with a bad word. While doing an interview on BBC's The Graham Norton Show, Samuel L. Jackson insisted that he still owned the purple lightsaber that his character, Mace Windu, used in some pretty epic battles in the Star Wars prequels. But the most shocking revelation? What Jackson claimed was engraved on his lightsaber, which is not suitable for young children. Any longtime follower of Jackson's career could probably guess, though, as you may recall, back in 1994, Jackson appeared in Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, where he played an enlightened hitman named Jules Winfield, whose wallet is embroidered with the same words. Adam Driver recorded his last lines as Kylo Ren in his own closet. According to Matthew Wood, sound editor on The Rise of Skywalker, changes to the script came in so late that he had to travel to the home of Adam Driver, who played villain Kylo Ren throughout the latest trilogy, to record him delivering a few new and necessary lines in a rather low-tech place. I ended up opening one of his closets where he had all of his suits, and I just pushed the suits out of the way and said, "Hang your head in here," Wood said on the Soundworks Collection podcast per the week. That was 11 facts. Let's take a hydration break. This used to have tea in it, so now it's like tea water, and it's not very good, but, you know, you gotta have liquid in your body. Nobody says the word Ewok at any point in Return of the Jedi. Not once in the entire Return of the Jedi movie does anybody say Ewok. The name is used in the script. A stage direction reads, "A strange little furry face with huge black eyes comes slowly into view. The creature is an Ewok by the name of Wicket," but that's it. So how did we all walk out of theaters knowing that those creatures were called Ewoks? The toys of the era confirmed the name, but it sure seemed like everybody was talking about Ewok long before we were buying the toys. Darth Maul barely blinks in The Phantom Menace. While the number of blinks varies depending on who you ask, Darth Maul's creepy villainous stare is a hallmark of his character. Reportedly, the red contact lenses worn by actor Ray Park made it difficult and painful to blink, but it was also decided that it was a useful character choice. One instance Star Wars fans do agree on is that Darth Maul briefly shuts his eyes right after he's chopped in half by Obi-Wan. Nice one, Obi. Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan's communicator is actually a lady's razor. Some of the most futuristic props in the Star Wars movies were created with some very unusual materials. Like Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, which was really just the handle of a vintage camera flash, or the medical droid's mouthpiece in Empire Strikes Back, which was just an old school microphone. But our favorite bit of prop trickery is in The Phantom Menace. You may not have looked twice at the communicators used by Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, but if you did, you might have noticed that they're shaped exactly like a Gillette razor. That's because they are! Not, like, really, but they were created from a resin cast of a Gillette Ladies Sensor XL razor.
I need a midichlorian count.
NSYNC was originally in Attack of the Clones. At the request of Lucas's daughter, he invited members of the boy band NSYNC to make a brief cameo in the prequel, Attack of the Clones, on a break from their 2001 Pop Odyssey tour. Lance Bass and Justin Timberlake opted to pass on the opportunity, but the rest of the band agreed to be suited up as Jedi Knights. They even took part in an actual battle, fighting droids in the climactic Geonosis battle. Took me a second to remember how to pronounce that. Joey Fatone remembered that the only direction they were given was pretend like you're fighting droids. Sadly, we'll never know if they were convincing as Jedi. Their scenes were cut from the final edit. Rogue One wasn't always called Rogue One. Rogue One's naming has a curious history and remains the only Star Wars movie where the title of the film is actually spoken as a line of dialogue. One of the alternative titles of the movie was Dark Times, but that was rejected shortly in pre-production. There was even an opening crawl to the movie, but it was never used. Rogue One is a military call sign to some extent, said director Gareth Edwards, adding that it was the first Star Wars movie that's gone off-piste and is not part of the saga or the Anakin story. Even Hollywood actors get excited holding lightsabers. Shove a lightsaber in any grown man's hand and they're immediately transformed into a giddy child. Even Trainspotting actor Ewan McGregor's not immune. During the lightsaber duels in The Phantom Menace, he kept unconsciously imitating the noise of the lightsaber during his fight scenes, even though George Lucas kept reminding him that the real sound would be added in by the special effects team in post-production. "Keep getting carried away," he said, blaming a lifelong and unconscious habit forged by all the pretend lightsaber duels he had as a child. McGregor wasn't the only one either. Apparently, Hayden Christensen kept doing the same.
Of course not me.
But someone.
Someone wise.
Actors also can't help going pew-pew. Like how McGregor couldn't help making lightsaber noises, Laura Dern couldn't stop herself making gun noises. Every time that Jurassic Park actress fired her gun, she went pew-pew. Dern made the noise so much that if you watch The Last Jedi very closely, you can see her mouth moving as her character fires a blaster. This was revealed by director Rian Johnson in his commentary on the movie. Lucas scoured the world to populate the Star Wars universe with non-English words and languages. George Lucas's plundering of non-English languages for names is legendary, but as well as pinching the Dutch word for father for Darth Vader, he also used the Sanskrit word for warrior to name Yoda, as well as a host of others words magpied from Africa, Central America, and the Himalayas. As for Jar Jar, well, that name has an even more curious origin. It was created by George Lucas's son. Meanwhile, John Williams turned to a 13th century Welsh manuscript for the chanting in his composition Duel of the Fates, and translated the lines "under the tongue, root of fight most dread, and another raging behind in the head" into Sanskrit. There potatoes in space.
I'm gonna dip this potato in some crushed Vicodin.
The asteroid sequence in The Empire Strikes Back is legendary for multiple reasons. Over the years, we've heard a whole house of stories about what the asteroids were actually made of, with rumors that a shoe and a potato made up the asteroids. The shoe was reportedly chucked in when one of the SFX animators became really annoyed by Lucas's continuous request to make adjustments to the sequence. I was always trying to stick stuff into shots, said Ken Ralston in a 2003 interview. Jedi has my tennis shoes and also a yogurt container as part of the ships in the background. Who would know? It's like there's all this stuff going on and I thought, hey, it'd be fun. It was just my way of saying, see what you can get away with? Some people noodle this stuff so much fretting about it, but it's like, you can't tell what this stuff is. Just stick it out there. And that concludes my reading of 20 Star Wars facts to avoid depression. I don't know if it worked. This is gonna be fun to edit and post. Hope you enjoyed. I hope those were new things that you'd never heard before. I tried to find facts that I hadn't heard about before. So those were a sampling of some. Peace.